going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And with round 15 kicking off tomorrow night, it is that time of the week again, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get our tips in. But before we do so, time to reflect on round 14, which was still rather abysmal. The week before, we did incredibly poorly, and then coming into last week, we only managed the 4 out of 7. As you can see on screen, we tipped the Bulldogs by 13 points. In the end, the margin difference was 70, and Adelaide won by 10 odd goals. It was an absolute belting, and I probably should have paid a lot more respect to Adelaide coming into this game, given that they are the #1 pressure-rated team in the competition this year. They took it to the Bulldogs, and on the back of performances from Jordan Dawson, Sam Berry, Rory Laird, they are screaming into finals contention, and with their run home, it's not beyond them to finish in the top 4. We'll talk about that momentarily. Our first correct tip of the round came from Geelong at GMHBA Stadium. Some will argue the umpires got them there. I still argue that there were statistics that fell the way of Geelong that just kind of deteriorated any chance that the Gold Coast had, especially scores generated off of turnover. They win this game by 45 points, and I think Geelong kicked 47 points off of direct forward 50 turnovers. So do the math, do as you will. Melbourne got us our second correct tip of the round, beating Essendon by 45 points, getting a little bit of comeuppance from the last time these two faced each other. We tipped West Coast to defeat North Melbourne, and North managed to win by a singular point. Jake Waterman had the game literally in the palm of his hands with 38 seconds to go and hit the post instead of nailing that goal. We took Sydney over Port Adelaide. 2 weeks in a row, Sydney have pinched a win straight out of the opposition's hands, and I'm happy to get that tick. Brisbane defeated Richmond, and I'm glad we got the tip right, but I'm also glad that Richmond actually rocked up and put in at least a 3-quarter performance. The third quarter fade out is where Brisbane ran away with this game, but it's still great to see Richmond digging in deep, especially given the fact that 2 weeks prior to this, we lost by 120 odd points, or over 100 points to Sydney. And the final game of the round, we tipped GWS, and St Kilda got the job done at Marvel Stadium. So while I got 4 out of 7, I feel there's going to be a special congratulations needed, because I think there were a few this week that tipped the perfect round. And I was correct. Congratulations must go to Team Wiggles, Shannon H, Gussie McStevo, Angus W, and Murdoch H for tipping a perfect 7 out of 7 round. Gentlemen, congratulations. Turning attention to the total tips, we have had some big shifts go down. While Welsh Duke still holds the #1 seed, it is no longer a 3-tip race. He is in front of a handful of tipsters who are now only 1 tip behind. Master Tipper from PA, Skyvo, Big Kev Shendo, Some Cripple, and Team Wiggles, all 2nd to 6th, all equally on 90 tips, knocking on the door. So congratulations to Welsh Duke for holding it down for another week, but sir, they're coming for your position hard. Rounding out the top 10, we have Evelyn May, Jonesy, Dusty Fendoff 4, and Ron Schill, with a couple in Christopher W and Gramercy Riff 78 tied with equal placing for that 9th spot. I've dropped down to 14th. I was in the top 10, and a poor round has seen me fade. I need to do something over the next couple of weeks to get myself back into contention, but thank you to all 35 once more in the competition for hanging around for another week. Congratulations to Welsh Duke once more for holding down the top seed. Congratulations to the 3 tipsters who tipped a perfect round. And with all that out of the way, all the housekeeping done and dusted, let's get our tips locked in for round 15. It all kicks off tomorrow night at Optus Stadium in what is going to be game of the round. I'm actually anticipating this could be one of the games of the year. Fremantle taking on Geelong. Having a look at the form guide, we know these teams played earlier this year at GMHBA Stadium, and Fremantle ended up losing by 10 points in a game which they led for margins. And if they had won that game, they would currently be sitting undefeated. This is the only team they have lost to in 2026. Outside of this, they got absolutely belted in 2025 and only just lost in 2024. So in respect, as you can see, it has been a couple of years since Geelong has had to go over to Optus to take on Fremantle. With that being said, Geelong might have picked up a nice win over the Gold Coast last week, but coming up against Fremantle in Fremantle is going to be a very tall order. This is going to be two competing game styles, and I feel if Geelong fumble, Fremantle are going to put them to the sword. We know Geelong like to kick mark and defensively hold up the game and get game on their terms, but if they turn that ball over, the handball game of Fremantle is going to absolutely destroy them. I am going to go Fremantle, and I'm going to take them by a margin of 17 points. I think it's going to be within a few goals, but there's something about Fremantle this year. Their run and carry game, their transition work from defence to forward is absolutely sensational. And while they are missing a player of the calibre of Tom Stewart in their defence, I feel Fremantle's forward line can absolutely eat them alive. This is going to be a great contest. Friday night, Gold Coast and Hawthorn at People's First Stadium. Now, going into this game, I would have normally lauded, People's First Stadium, the Gold Coast, they play out of their skin at People's First, and as you can see on screen, they definitely do play well at People's First. Earlier this year, we have seen Hawthorn and Gold Coast go head-to-head, and Hawthorn won quite emphatically. I think, given the scope of what we've been seeing from the Gold Coast over recent weeks, I'm going to go with Hawthorn to win this game, and probably, well, they're favourites to win this, but in an upset given the fact that the Gold Coast are playing at home. Hawthorn has a very similar run and carry game to the likes of Fremantle, Sydney, GWS, and we are still yet to see this Gold Coast quartet of Miller, Petrarca, Rowell, and Anderson firing on all cylinders. Whenever all four have been available in this team, they haven't lived up to the expectation that this team should be living up to, and I just feel with the momentum Hawthorn can build, they're going to run rings around the Gold Coast. I'm going to take Hawthorn by at least 5 goals. Big call, 30 points, but that's where I'm landing. The first of Saturday is in Adelaide Oval, Adelaide taking on Melbourne. Form guide suggests that when Adelaide play at home, more often than not, they are going to win. It has been a tight contest back in 2023, 2024. Adelaide lost to Melbourne in Adelaide, but then last year, Adelaide getting the chocolates over Melbourne. This is an interesting watch as well, and I feel this has capabilities of being match of the round too, because Melbourne play a very fun brand when they're up and about, but there's something about Adelaide and their contested work and their breakaway game, especially when they get the ball forward, they can do some very magical things. These are two teams that have some really integral young players on both sides that can do some great things here. I'm very, very keen to see how this game plays out. Just given how Adelaide played against the Bulldogs, it is hard to back against them going back to their home deck. I'm going to say Adelaide by 25 points. We head over to NG Stadium. GWS taking on Carlton. The form guide will show that Carlton got the better of them in 2024 the first time around, but it's been GWS both outings since, including one at NG and then one being played in Melbourne. Again, where do we get a read on these guys? Ever since Michael Voss quit, we have seen Carlton win 4 in a row. GWS have played some great games. They dropped a game to West Coast, and then they've come out the following 2 weeks and played great games of football and lost a tight contest to St Kilda last week. GWS are starting to get a full complement back together again. I feel the forward line of Hogan, Cadman, Toby Green, Brent Daniels in the midfield has given them a bit of an edge. Oliver playing in arguably career best form. Finn Callaghan finding form. I'm going to go GWS on their home deck, and I'm going to go GWS by 19 points. I think it's going to be a tight contest. Carlton will come to play, but are going to fall just short in what will be Josh Fraser's first loss as interim coach. Final game on Saturday sees Collingwood hosting Port Adelaide at the MCG. Form guide, both of these teams struggling, only having won 1 game of their last 5. It has been Collingwood every time these teams have played, including a close enough to 100-point smacking last year. Collingwood at home is as safe a bet as we will get here. Nick Dacos will end up putting in close enough to a best on ground performance. I'm going to go Nick Dacos 30 touches and 2 goals with Collingwood to win by 27. We'll talk about that prediction when the time comes next week. First on Sunday, the MCG. Richmond taking on North Melbourne. It has been North Melbourne all 3 outings, including an absolute belting earlier this year. I'm going to do something incredibly crazy here. I'm tipping Richmond. I've got to do something a little bit different to make up some tips, right? And the way they played in that first half against Brisbane, I feel if we bring that pressure against North Melbourne, we can get on top. Very likely that Toby Nankervis could possibly be back in this week. Ryan Mansell is available this week. There's another player available as well. But now that we're starting to get players back into the mix, we can start structurally doing things. And I feel if Nankervis comes back in, a 1-2 punch of Nankervis and Bolter against Cherry could give us a bit of an edge. Our midfield is starting to get a little bit of continuity. Our defensive line looks strong, especially with big tomato sauce Anand in for his debut game last week. He looked right at home. I'm very, very serious when I say Richmond by 13 points could be the final outcome here, and that's what I'm hinging my bets on. Final game of the round sees St Kilda hosting the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. The last 3 outings, it has been the Bulldogs. This is very interesting though, because St Kilda have been playing out of their skin. The Bulldogs were very uncompetitive last week against Adelaide, but prior to that, they have won some very tight contests, and all of those games have been at Marvel. Tentative to team selections, I am going to say the Bulldogs to win this one. However, St Kilda winning by, 3 or 4 goals and Liam Ryan kicking 4 or 5 isn't off the cards given the form that he's ran in over recent weeks. So I'm going Fremantle by 17, Hawthorn, Adelaide, GWS, Collingwood, Richmond, and the Bulldogs. Boy, oh boy. I hope I get something right. Obviously, with the bye, Brisbane, Essendon, Sydney, and West Coast all sit this particular week out. Do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you left a like down below. If you've got any suggestions for content you would like to see me make, let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, especially if they're playing and they're not on that bye. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.